For long decades, he was nothing but a ghost, a mathematical expectation, a whisper echoing through the corridors of scientific institutes. Dmitri Mendeleev, that great architect of the world order, had reserved a lonely spot for him at the very bottom of the halogen group, christening him Eka-iodine, a name that sounded like a promise no one could keep. Chemists across the globe, seized by a true scientific fever, hunted him with the same desperate passion with which alchemists of old sought the philosopher's stone or the elixir of immortality. Through the fine sieves of their curiosity, they sifted tons of salty seawater, burned kilograms of iodine-rich kelp into ash, and dissolved the rarest minerals from the most remote corners of the planet in scorching acids. Yet, every time, their efforts shattered against a deafening wall of the unknown. It was as if the universe were intentionally holding this card up its sleeve, forcing humanity to wander through labyrinths of conjecture and disappointment. This void in the periodic table was like an open, pulsating wound on the body of global science, a silent reproach to the human mind that believed it had conquered matter. Scientists stared at that ominous empty space beneath iodine and felt a genuine phantom pain. The rigorous logic of chemical laws screamed that a heavy, dark, almost metallic element endowed with noble weight must be there. But nature only smiled ironically, playing hide and seek with them at the level of atomic nuclei. Every failed expedition, every subsequent false report of a discovery that collapsed with a loud crack under scrutiny, only strengthened the somber myth of the cursed element, too proud and elusive to allow mundane human eyes to touch its essence. Astatine watched these tragicomic searches from the cold interstellar oblivion, being too ephemeral to give even the slightest sign, and too internally unstable to leave even a single lasting footprint in the hardened crust of the earth. He was an idea without incarnation, a dream without flesh, a great nothingness that by its very absence weighed more than all the discovered metamorphoses surrounding it. The name Astatine appeared only in 1947. Before then, scientists had managed to discover him several times, giving him names that vanished along with their errors. He was truly an illusion element, nourished by the hopes and mistakes of entire generations of chemists. His true, definitive name did not resound in the blessed silence of ancient natural caves or amidst the serenity of ocean depths, but in the deafening, mechanical roar of high technologies that tore the very fabric of reality. Dale Corson, Kenneth Mackenzie, and Emilio Segre, within the laboratories of Berkeley, finally realized a brutal truth. If the stingy universe refuses to grant us astatine as an act of mercy, we must wrench it from the hands of nature itself through the brute force of human genius. They prepared a sacrificial altar, a target of heavy, cold bismuth, and began to relentlessly bombard it with alpha particles accelerated to incredible speeds. It resembled not a scientific experiment, but a fierce siege of a fortress from an invisible world, where every spark in the accelerator was an attempt to breach the impenetrable wall between the possible and the impossible, between the existing and that which is forever doomed to remain a mere formula on paper. It was a painful, unnatural birth under the ruthless aim of nuclear artillery, where every newborn atom felt the shockwave of human audacity. Astatine did not emerge as a gentle gift of evolution or a chance find in golden sand. It arose as a cry of protest, the result of sanctioned violence against fundamental matter. In that fateful moment when the first atom of element 85 trembled timidly within the electromagnetic trap of the instruments, it instantly realized its tragic uniqueness. It had become the world's first artificially created child of science, lacking any tangible, flesh-bound, natural counterparts. It awoke not in the embrace of the warm Earth's crust, but in a cold, utterly sterile world of concrete, high-voltage cables and somber lead shielding, where instead of the planet's primordial maternal warmth, it was met only by soulless glass camera lenses, indifferent sensors, and dry, dust-like entries in laboratory journals. Its right to exist was finally officially confirmed by the seals of authorities, but the price of this recognition was a terrifying lifelong isolation in vacuum chambers where its every breath was measured by a second hand, relentlessly counting down the time until its inevitable disappearance. Emilio Segre, who participated in this assault, later helped discover other elements, but Astatine remained forever his most elusive trophy. The use of the cyclotron was akin to using a sledgehammer to forge a piece of fine jewelry. The work was at once that delicate and that crude. Imagine this painful, despair-filled internal monologue of Astatine in those rare nanoseconds of stillness when he finally realizes his own mutilated physical nature. He is a true chemical bastard metallic by his ancestral lineage, yet irreparably halogen-like in his rebellious spirit. In the depths of his being, he desperately yearns to be noble, lustrous, and unshakably solid like great silver, dreaming of the stability of a crystalline armor. However, his relentless nature forces him to be volatile, insidious, and corrosive like dark iodine. This is not merely a chemical quirk, it is a true internal fracture, a fundamental structural schizophrenia, where every electron fights for the right to belong to two worlds at once, finding no peace in either. He is trapped in an in-between, an eternal twilight zone between the cold glint of metal and the poisonous breath of a non-metal, being far too heavy for one and far too restless for the other. He feels like a tragic actor rudely thrust onto the spotlight-drenched stage of existence, given the lead role, but forgotten when it came to writing even a single line of the script. Every moment of his brief stay in reality, he feverishly tries to understand which shore he should cling to for salvation, whether to attempt to become part of an ordered, majestic crystal lattice, or to surrender and fly away as an invisible, lethal vapor. But the cruel irony is that any choice he makes, any movement towards certainty, inevitably leads to instantaneous decay. He peers through the walls of his energetic prison at his fortunate neighbors, in the periodic table at eternal, steadfast gold, calmly observing the passing millennia, or at rugged and reliable iron, and feels a searing black envy of their divine ability to simply be, without changing their identity every second. For Astatine, every breath, every movement of an electron is an unbearable choice between agonizing self-destruction and an instantaneous, uncontrolled transformation. In his world, there is no place for peace, silence, or stasis. There reigns only an endless, gnawing anxiety of an overloaded, heavy nucleus bursting his essence from within with the incredible fury of nuclear forces striving to tear him to pieces right here and now. Astatine is the only halogen that exhibits noticeable metallic properties. He can deposit on a cathode during electrolysis. He is literally an element that doesn't know what he wants to be when he grows up, but the problem is, he never has enough time to grow up. The story turns into a merciless, boiling heat the moment we transition to his physical properties, which resemble the description of a mythical demon more than an element of the periodic table. If, contrary to all laws of nature, we were able to gather even a single milligram of pure astatine in a thin glass test tube, it would not glow with a soft, soothing light like its radioactive brethren. No, it would instantaneously boil, transforming into a scorched, lethal vapor right before our eyes. He is so overflowing with internal radioactive fury that he literally vaporizes himself by the colossal force of his own decay without waiting for an external flame. This is the true pinnacle of his cosmic loneliness. He is deprived of even the simplest comfort to huddle into a group with his own brother atoms to finally create a visible, tangible body. Any accumulation of astatine is doomed to thermal suicide. He is an element that cannot endure his own presence, fated to scatter in all directions the moment he draws near to his own kind. This is the terrible curse of the hot touch. He is so densely packed with chaotic internal energy that any attempt at contact with surrounding reality inevitably leads to a localized thermal explosion. Astatine is denied the chance to feel the coolness of water, the smoothness of silk, or the calm hardness of laboratory glass. He instantly transforms everything he touches into raging plasma, creating a microscopic but unbearable hell around himself. His existence is a desperate dance on the sharp edge of evaporation, where he simultaneously acts as melting ice, a devastating flame, and weightless vapor, never lingering in any state long enough to be defined. He will never know the comfort of a stable chemical compound or the peace of a lasting bond, for his inner fire is too bright, too wild, and too destructive for the fragile, delicate chemical ties of this world. He is an eternal loner, locked in a cocoon of his own heat, destined to shine for others, but to incinerate anyone who dares to come too close. And now, the inevitable finale approaches. The curtain begins to slowly descend upon his short performance, one so fraught with internal tempests. At the very moment when the last drops of his life energy are ready to finally flicker out in the cold vacuum of the laboratory, science, which once seemed a mere cruel jailer, suddenly offers him a chance for true, lofty redemption. He is not simply cast into the abyss of oblivion like billions of random atoms before him. Instead, he, chosen and tempered, is sent on a holy war against humanity's most insidious and terrifying enemy, the tumor that devours life from within. He travels along the intricate, pulsating highways of the veins like the last lonely samurai in a world that has lost hope, firmly clutching his radioactive sword. This is a mission with no turning back, a one-way path where every millimeter of the journey brings him closer to his own end. He glides through the thick, mysterious darkness of the human body, feeling with almost physical pain how his strength withers, leaking from his nucleus with every precious, relentless minute that slips away. When he finally reaches a direct line of sight with the enemy cell, this chaotic embodiment of death, he does not hesitate for a second, for in his nature, there is no room for doubt. This is the moment of his absolute, supreme triumph, the point where physics meets metaphysics. He becomes a living shield for a vulnerable life, directing all his accumulated fury and destructive power for the benefit of another, a creature entirely foreign to him. In the final, blinding flash of alpha decay that shatters the shackles of his being, he feels not a primal fear of non-existence, but an incredible, all-encompassing relief. He has finally found and fulfilled the one purpose that eluded the billions of his nameless predecessors who dissolved tracelessly in the salt waters of the world's oceans. Astatine vanishes in a brilliant glow of energy, leaving behind pure, crystalline hope for healing and making a silent, almost sacred transition into stable, tranquil bismuth. He resembles a weary traveler who, after an endless battle, has finally cast off his heavy, glowing armor and with a faint smile lain down to rest in the first gentle rays of an eternal dawn.